to your year-end video and some of the challenges that you've been talking about that you faced over the past year, I'd like to talk about how they affect Vancouver Island. One of them is Community Living BC. We've done a number of stories on it, talking about seniors that have been in need. We have a patient right now who has cancer that's not getting help from the Ministry of Social Development. What are you going to do to try to overcome those challenges?
We are going to fix them. You know, when I got here, that was one of those issues that was on my desk when I arrived. And you know, one of the difficult things about this year has been, in particular, the issues with CLBC, because people with developmental disabilities depend on that ministry for their quality of life. They depend on that organization. And I thought that we were going to be able to fix the problems more quickly. They've turned out to be much deeper institutional problems than we thought. And so I'm determined that we are not going to put a Band-Aid solution on this. We are going to fix it. We are going to fix it for the long term because people depend on it. So it's frustrating for me as well that it's taken longer than I thought. But when we get there, it'll be fixed.
To those families, to those children that are looking for either more money or for the government to step in and deal with those problems, you're promising in the next 12 months you'll do it?
Absolutely. I mean, sooner than that. You know, the thing is that government is never perfect at anything, but we could be a whole lot more perfect with CLBC than we have been. And so it means making sure that we are delivering the services better, more appropriately, that the resources are there to support the people that we need it. There's a whole range of things that we've been confronted with that we've worked our way through. So, you know, we're not going to fix it over the next 12 months. My hope is we're going to fix it much, much sooner than that because people need those services.
Let's talk about some of the key issues to Vancouver Island. Raw log exports. The mayors up in the middle to north of the island say this is a huge issue for them. They see these logs going out of their communities and they say it's time the government steps in and does something about this. What's your response?
My response is that we are stepping in and doing something about it. We are going to, I spent 2 weeks in China and India selling our manufactured wood to folks. I mean, the opportunity there is huge. In China alone, the government is planning to build 1 unit for every citizen that lives in our entire country over the next full decade. So they are going to need our product. That's it, and our manufactured product. What I'm focused on is trying to find customers for BC Wood overseas to replace the customers we've lost in the United States. That's what keeps sawmills open. And if we can keep sawmills open, that's what reduces the number of logs that get exported. So, I mean, we have to make sure that we are focused on trying to address the raw logs issue in our province. The way to do it is to try and make sure that we have more markets for our manufactured wood.
When you put your jobs plan out there, some say, to me at least, the Premier snubbed Vancouver Island on her jobs tour. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, what are we talking about in the jobs plan? We are talking about tourism as a major focus, growing our tourism numbers exponentially. That's huge for Vancouver Island. International students, growing the number of international students at Vancouver Island University and at Royal Roads and at UVic, growing them by 50% over the next 4 years. We're talking about a focus on our agri-food sector. The niche market that has been created on Vancouver Island, in particular for organic foods, is tremendous. So the thing about the jobs plan is it's addressing all those areas of the economy that are most important on Vancouver Island.
The mayors in Greater Victoria say the most important thing you could do probably to stimulate the economy in Vancouver Island, at least on the southern part of the island, is to contribute to the expansion of the runway at Victoria International. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before. You and your Minister of Transportation seem to differ on it ever so slightly. Can they look towards you stepping in and trying to promote this, or at least taking a look at it?
Well, the thing is that every community all across British Columbia is of the same view about the airport in their community. So where we're at right now is no secret. The world economy is in terrible turmoil. We're trying to keep our heads above water here in the province by enabling the creation of jobs in every region. But we have limited resources to kind of kickstart that in terms of building the infrastructure that we need. We have to focus all of our resources for infrastructure on the highest priority projects that are going to create economic activity.
And are they on Vancouver Island?
Well, some of them certainly will be on Vancouver Island. But is Victoria Airport high enough on that list in terms of it generating economic activity? The transport, the people that work in our government and the transport ministry say it's just not. It will create economic activity, but it's not high enough up on the list, and that's so it's not a project for this year. It may be a project for future years.
Let's talk about policing in the Capital Region and amalgamation. I know you've taken the position you'd like integration, but I mean, do you really understand that file? Because the research that I've done on it recently is astounding. That you have police departments. I was at one situation a couple of years ago where they were arguing what jurisdiction it was going to be in, as they were trying to put the evidence together. You've got some police agencies saying they're looking after female prisoners in their cells that have to go to court, and if they don't make a certain court date, they spend 3 to 4 days in their cells without that time of getting out and walking around. Do you think that's appropriate?
You know what? We have to make sure that we have better integration of our police forces. Absolutely. And that's when we talk about the RCMP contract as an example. That's part of what we've negotiated into the new RCMP contract, is that better back-end integration. It has to be part of what is happening in the Victoria region as well, in the South Island. There are strong arguments in favor of regionalizing police forces. There are lots of local communities, though, citizens in local communities, not just politicians, who will make pretty strong arguments in favor of keeping their own local force as well.
What about looking at maybe local patrols and then integration of everything else, or having some kind of system that allows those local communities to participate in local policing, but crash analysis, murder investigations, and so on, going to an overall reaching agency? I think that
on the South Island, they should be thinking about ways that they can continue to integrate police forces across the region. I mean, absolutely, they have to be thinking about that. I'm reluctant as Premier to sort of plop a solution on top of communities who may not want it. But I think that, if we can as a government, and if the Solicitor General can find ways to enable them to do more of that back-end integration, we are happy to help them do that, because we all have the same interest. We want to make sure that our communities are safe places to live. And that's what you're talking about. You're trying to find ways to get there. If we can help local communities get there faster, better, I'm happy to do it.
But what about those women that are sitting in the jail cells that are waiting for their court dates, on a Monday morning, and they're not getting out and getting that, what I think is demanded, that 1 hour of fresh air and walking time? Is that appropriate? Is that something you think that we need to be looking at?
Well, we have to make sure that people who are incarcerated, who are accused of a crime, get appropriate, humane treatment. I mean, that's part of our duty as a government. That's part of communities' duty when they're doing their own policing. So, if that's not happening, it's something that we need to be really concerned about.
And the number one issue you think you'll be dealing with on Vancouver Island next year is?
It's going to be the same issue I'm dealing with all across the province, and that's protecting and enabling the creation of jobs in British Columbia. That's the number one thing. And so if that's the forest industry, the seafood industry, the agriculture industry, if it's tourism, if it's high tech, we have to be focused like a laser beam. Because here's where my government is maybe different from other governments across the country. I am not going to come back from vacation with a new pet project. I am going to be focused on our jobs plan like a laser beam from now until the next election, and if people vote me back into government, after that too, because British Columbians need to know they have a government that's going to do the one thing for families that's most important, and that's making sure that there are jobs for people to work at so they can put food on the table for their kids.
Premier, thank you.
My pleasure.